Hey everyone, Dr. Frunkey here with a very special knife consult video. This is the WE Knives Zeta. So this is an up-and-coming WE Knives model. This is actually a prototype. This is a collaborative effort with Elijah Isham, or Elijah Isham. He is an up-and-coming knife designer and knife maker. He's got some really wild designs. And WE Knives actually picked up two of his designs. This is one of them. This is the Zeta. The other one is the Eschaton. That one is similar in overall sort of design in terms of the blade sits lower than the pivot and the handle is relatively skinny, but it takes this design to 11. It's a totally crazy looking semi-integral crazy design, much less practical. This is the more practical younger sister of the pair right there, and I think that that's what they were going for. They wanted to bring the really experimental knife, the sort of fantasy knife almost, and then they wanted to bring a little bit more practical side to things here, and so they made this Zeta. And this has some very interesting features about it, and it is a very stunningly good looking blade. But this is just a prototype, and so I don't know what the actual final production model will be, and I don't want to make a final diagnosis on a knife that's not a full production model. So let's go ahead and get into this and talk about this knife and break it down anatomically. So up front, we've got a 4-inch blade of M390 steel. This is done in a black DLC. It is a nice flat grind. It's not hollow ground, it is flat ground. But it is very thin behind the edge. The stock is not overly thick. I believe it's about 0.16 inches. And it does slice pretty well. It came reasonably sharp. Some of the other factory production models were a little bit sharper than this prototype. So I assure you that the factory models will be extra sharp. It's sort of a trailing point type of tip going on there as it drops down like that, but then comes right back up. It's got a very interesting grind to it. So it's got that beautiful top swedge, but what it has in it is this giant hole. This is something that I have been sort of thinking about for the last couple of weeks while I've had it, and about whether or not it's a good thing. So what it does allow is that it allows you to open the knife in a number of different ways. It does have a flipper tab, and it does have that big hole. So you can get your thumb in there and open the knife that way. You can get your finger behind it and open the knife that way. It's hard to do on camera there for everyone. You can use your opposite hand, open it like that. You can Spidey drop it. I'm not going to do that on camera, so I'll probably mess it up. So it makes it very versatile for opening. Now, one of the benefits of the Spidey hole over something like this is that the Spidey hole tends to be very small and sort of unobtrusive. This is going to get in the way of most cutting tasks. It's a fairly big hole in the blade, and if you're going to be doing any type of food prep or something like that, you're going to get all sorts of stuff stuck up in there. Unless you're cutting paper or cardboard, you're going to get a whole lot of whatever it is stuck up in there. If you're cutting on any organic material, you're probably going to regret that very quickly with this knife. So that is a sort of a form before function kind of part of this knife, and we'll see that that kind of follows through in a few different areas. So moving back, we've got WE Knives' very smooth pivot system. They run on ball bearings. All WE Knives are known to have really good action, and this one is no exception. The one drawback, the main drawback of this knife, the thing that sort of kills it in my mind, is the flipper tab. This knife is meant to be a flipper, and a lot of designers work very hard to keep the flipper sort of out of the way because they can become sort of obtrusive. They don't necessarily follow the lines of the knife. Some designers say that they hate flipper tabs because they ruin all the lines of a knife. They just kind of hang out there and they don't really do anything. You know, some are more beautiful than others. Some are really ugly. Some flow with the knife and some don't. Some people have come up with creative ways of hiding the flipper, like this SLT from Gustavo Cecchini and ZT right here. But on this particular knife, the way that they've decided to sort of integrate it is a very small and very sharp flipper tab. So I'll show you what that looks like. They wrote M390 on there. But when you're using it, you're putting your finger right on the tip of a fairly sharp piece of hard metal, and you're just sort of pulling it to the best of your ability and praying that this thing opens. And honestly, it's not secure. It's not very easy to do over and over again. And very often I don't fire it all the way because I'm not able to get enough purchase. It's so small that it's hard to get on there, and it doesn't really fire out with the authority that some of these other knives do. When I get this 702 in hand, that thing just rockets out of there. And I know that they know how to do good flippers. This is the 606. This thing has some of the best flipping action that I've experienced on most knives, let alone this a little Chinese knife. So I know that WE Knives knows how to make a flipper action really, really sweet. I will say that in this production model, it's not, or this pre-production model, it's not quite there. So if I could make any recommendations, it might be a small tweak of the flipper tab, maybe make it a little bit bigger, or do something so that there's a little bit more traction. They may not change that, but we'll see. Moving back to the handle scales, you find a really, really nice combination of titanium and carbon fiber. I think that they've done a beautiful job. There is no real seam between these two materials going on here. And from what I've seen, the titanium bolsters come in a variety of really beautifully finished colors. This one is done in what I've been calling a yellurple satin finish. It's yellow, it's purple, it's got blues in there, it's got almost copper tones, brass tones. It's really, really nice. I like it a lot, and it totally changes depending on what color it is or how bright the light is right now. So it's pretty bright in here, so it's staying more yellow. If you put your finger oils on it, it will change colors and everything. I do like it a lot, and I've seen some other ones that look even better. I'm not sure I would purchase it in this exact configuration, but it is a very nice anodization job, and it shows their techniques and how to make multi-layer ano right there, and I really, really like that. The carbon fiber is beautiful, nice and thick, one big piece. You can see how nice the fibers are right there. You get both types of pattern. You get the thing they call this the blackwood carbon fiber type patterning going on there where it looks like grains of wood, and then you get the typical checkered pattern. So that's just a beautiful effect and really, really nicely done. Perfectly milled, no voids that I can appreciate, and it's really nicely done. It's got a 3D milled titanium clip that's matched to the anodization of the rest of the blade and the bolsters. So I really, really like that. This functions really well. This slides in and out of the pocket really nicely. It rides really low. I appreciate that a whole lot. Great, great, great design on that clip. Functional and beautiful. Gotta love it. Okay, so how does this thing EDC? It does pretty well. Let's go ahead and bust out the scale and talk about how much it weighs. So pretty lightweight. It comes in at 4.13 ounces. So very, very carryable at that weight. You know, you're looking at a paramilitary 2 type of weight. Speaking of other knives, let's bring out some knives for comparison. So, sorry, I'm getting my fingerprints all over this thing. Got a ZT0392, a 3.5 inch blade going on right there. I'll pull out the WE Knives 702. So that's also about a 4-inch blade. This one doesn't look it, but that tip is so skinny that you don't see that that blade is actually that long. I'll go ahead and pull back out the ZT0055. A little bit bigger knife going on there. How about a Riot Knives Steelcraft Bodega for comparison? Looking good there. I've got a Borka Blades Microtech Stitch. Big handle knife on that one. Relatively small blade, but also with the all black DLC finish. So a nice little comparison there. And how about just for S's and G's, we bring out the Peter Rosenti Satori right there. So you see where this kind of falls. It's a medium to big size knife, but it carries a little bit slimmer than that because of its overall profile. Very skinny handle, relatively thin in the pocket, EDCs very nicely with a good weight. But I will say there are a couple of things that make this knife not very desirable for me personally. Number one is the large hole in the blade is going to restrict the kind of things you want to use because you're going to build up a bunch of gunk in there, be it mud, dirt, organic material, or whatever. And then finally, last but not least, that flipper tab is just too small. And then the ergos for opening this knife with the Spidey flick are not excellent either. It's a little bit skinny in the hand and hard to hold on to. So it's a beautiful knife, but I believe this is really where form precedes function. So I'll be interested to see if they make any changes to the production model. Thanks for watching my video, guys. Click like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram at Dr. Frunkey. And as always, guys, take care.